So I thought you might like to see my progress on the adventure game prototype I'm putting together. My focus here is on making everything as easy as possible for other people to do. The idea is that I want to see everybody make adventure games in Unreal, and to make that possible, I've got to make it super clear how to do that. Most of that is just knowing which checkboxes to click. For example, do you want a character that walks like an adventure game character? That's just 2 checkboxes, and you have to know where they are. Do you want to add puddles to your game like this? That's super easy. It's like 8 nodes. You just have to know where to put them, and then you can paint puddles anywhere you want. All of these puddles are manually painted by me. But some things in Unreal are extremely hard. For example, that was extremely hard. There are 1,000 different dialogue plugins for Unreal, and the reason for that is because Unreal is spectacularly bad at dialogue. Mine is just as bad as all of the others. The problem is that Unreal doesn't like dialogue. It doesn't really like the concept of popping something up on the screen. It's not really a UI-intensive sort of game engine. To Unreal, dialogue is something that should be screamed at the top of a cyborg's lungs while they're gunning down Satan. It's something that happens incidentally while you're doing other game stuff. So they don't really have any concept of how to have a dialogue-centric game. That's why everybody has to roll their own, and it's always a mess. Now, all of the dialogue engines I've looked into don't integrate very well with level sequences. But we need level sequences if we're going to be using control rigs to animate our characters, which is what we're doing here. So I've created a dialogue thing that works well with control rigs. Now I've created it to be as easy to use as possible, but it's still a little bit chonky. Did you see how she popped back into her original stance at the end there? Watch, we'll go through it again here. Pop. Now the reason that happens is because we've stopped one level sequence, the dialogue level sequence, and we've transitioned back to the idle sequence. Now we could put the idle sequence in the same dialogue sequence if we wanted, but the problem would still exist. The transition between the dialogue beat and the idle beat is 1 frame. There's no lerping. And there aren't really any good ways around that without blurring everything together, because the level sequences aren't very good at reporting things. They're not very good at telling you, oh, I'm over, now I'm going to blend into this next level sequence. Like, if you're using an animation blueprint and you have 2 animations, you can actually say, blend between these animations this fast when you change animations. You can't do that with a level sequence. And it's a big problem. Now in this case, the solution is to just make sure she goes back to her idle pose before she's done talking. But there are a lot of situations where we have similar problems that are just as bad. For example, if we were to go here, this is a cute little animation, right? Do you see that pop where the camera moves? I could probably make it so that camera doesn't pop like that. But in order to do that, I would have to write code in the character that actually does that. And if I write that code, it might not be robust enough for anybody else to use. And if I have to teach you how to write that code, it's just crap in your way. You shouldn't have to think about it. So it's one of the situations where I'm trying to make it as easy as possible, but some things don't get easy. Some things Unreal makes hard, and I'm trying to figure out the best way to make that stuff easy on everybody. Let's talk about the dialogue sequence here. I showed you this before. If you remember it, if you don't remember it, that's fine too. Basically, this is a level sequence. You can put in cameras and characters of any sort, and you can split it up into chapters like this with these keyframes. Now, the sequences normally ignore those keyframes. I, however, use them. So down here at the very bottom, we have this event system. When this dialog box fires, by default, it will continue to play until it reaches a keyframe, at which point it will stop. And then once you're done with the dialogue, you click through, it will then proceed on, and then, oh look, here's another dialog box, I will proceed until B, and then stop. Oh, are you done? I'll proceed. Oh, we've finished. That's the basic idea, right? Now these beats can be manually entered. You can say, you know, this beat could be her saying whatever we want her to say specifically. We could manually enter, she says this here. But what we've actually done in this case is we just have a generic event. It just says, hey, do the thing. And so what the thing is, in this case, is we've set up a system where you can have all of your stuff loaded into where is it? There it is, a dialog table. You can have it loaded into a dialog table. This is how we can get large sequences of dialogue into our games. This can be edited in, you know, whatever, Excel or whatever you're using, or right here in Unreal, whichever. And basically, it just means that we can have all of our text right here in a sequence, and we can have things like branching text and have it pop to various animation frames and stuff like that whenever we want to. It allows us to do a lot of the work for expanding our dialogue without having to manually create specific level sequences for each line of dialogue, because we can reuse the same level sequences or subsequences for different dialogue. Now this brings the level sequence system dangerously close to just being an animation blueprint system, because that's what animation blueprints are for. Like, if we were going to create a dialogue sequence, we could just give a character an animation blueprint that understands that they are going to be in a dialogue sequence, and then they just play dialogue sequence blueprint animation number 4, sequence blueprint number 8. And I'm thinking, you know, that's not necessarily a bad way to do it. The downside of that is that you have to have those animations, which means you either have to, you know, find them somewhere, or you have to build them and then bake them. And so I'm sort of agonizing over which approach is better for us. Is it better to keep with the level sequences? I think it probably is. Most of the feedback I've gotten says it is. But this is really allowing us to reuse the level sequences and play them in different orders for different dialogue. Makes it into something that is not really intended to be. Animation blueprints are intended to do that, but level sequences really are a little bit fragile, and I'm worried that this will end up being something where the players just end up doing just as much work as they would have done to create an animation blueprint that understands dialogue. I don't know. Well, you can let me know what you think down below, and, you know, hopefully, at some point, someone will come up with a great way to do this sort of stuff for Unreal, dialogues for Unreal, but if they have, I haven't seen it. If you've seen someone that's put together a great dialogue engine for Unreal that actually does all the stuff we need it to do, let me know. I won't believe you, but I'll look into it. See you around.